Wish We Could Turn Back Time by Girlinpink44. Chapter 3, Returning to the States. Tony had officially added another item to his to-do list. He was going to work on developing Quinjets ASAP. He had gotten spoiled to how they moved faster than traditional aircraft. From a business standpoint, he wondered if he could find a way to use some of the technology commercially and speed up air travel as a whole. It was something he hadn't spent a lot of time thinking about last time around, but the idea had some merit. The flight from the airbase in Germany to Los Angeles would take roughly 12 hours, though technically with the number of time zones he was crossing, only about 3 hours would actually pass. Sleep wasn't an option, especially not in a military plane. He was lucky if he could catch a few hours on one of his private jets, but was aware he'd be lucky to catch more than an hour. But that left him with time to make plans. Younger him was an idiot with how he had handled shutting down weapons production. Stark Industries was done making weapons, that much was true. But he needed to do it in a way that wouldn't have Obi take control and power the way he did. Even if Tony took it back rather promptly and dramatically. But this time, he would do it in a more calculated and less brash way. Years of plague politics with politicians who thought they were on his level had taught him many things. And now was the time to put those lessons into place. He looked over to where Rhodey was sitting and his friend was currently reading a book. As if he sensed he was being watched, his friend looked up at him and grinned. Tony grinned back, comfortable with showing a small amount of emotion on the mostly empty plane. He shifted positions, trying to get more comfortable and wincing slightly. He had completely forgotten how he had thrown his shoulder out when he landed in the desert. He'd worked through it, maybe in a healthier way than he had last time. He had drawn up rough schematics for the new Max 2 and would work on it more in his lab. Tony dropped his pen as something struck him. The sound of it clanging to the floor of the plane caught Rhodey's attention. He got up quickly, came over and picked up the pen. Tones? Jarvis! Tony closed his eyes as an overwhelming wave of emotion crashed into him. Jarvis was still there. Or back, or whatever you wanted to call it. While he'd grown to appreciate his second digital child, losing Jarvis had been an ache that had never quite gone away. And now it didn't have to. Tones, I need you to breathe with me. Rhodey had once again adopted a tone as if he was talking to an injured animal. That's it. In for 4. You know how to do this. Tony listened. Hold for 7. Now out for 8. They repeated the cycle a few more times until Tony felt a bit more in control. His breathing evened out and he opened his eyes again to find his friend right in front of him. Thanks, Platypus. Tony leaned back in his seat, letting the tablet rest on his lap, the recently reacquired pen sitting in his spot to its side. Honestly, considering how his last few days had been, the fact that this was his first panic attack was rather impressive. Hey, honey bear? Yeah, Tony? Tony grinned at him. You walked over here, didn't you? That earned him a laugh. I did. Now, get some rest. Something tells me you won't do a lot of that over the next few days, and we land in about 4 hours. The tablet was taken from his hands, something only Rhodey and Pepper, and on occasion Peter, could do. A pillow and blanket were thrown his way, and he settled across the row of seats and attempted to get some rest. Tony wondered exactly how irrational it would be for him to tell Rhodey to tell the plane to go anywhere but California. But he wasn't ready to face the reality that perhaps Pepper didn't remember. That he wasn't ready to be back in the same zip code as Stain, much less the same building or room. He had gotten out. Sure, his ending hadn't been completely happy. Harley and Peter had been among the ones dusted, and they left a hole in his heart. But he had started to figure out how to be content. How to tell Morgan stories about her big brothers without crying through them. Like the time Peter had scared the shit out of Happy. because the latter didn't know that occasionally the former napped on the ceiling. But he had to face it. He had to channel the battle-worn, tired hero who wished for nothing more than his family to be safe and happy. And they weren't. Stain was out there. Thanos was out there.
Hydra? Tones?
Rhodey broke him out of his thoughts, and he turned to his friend.
Yeah? You ready?
No, but let's do this anyway. Rhodey nodded to someone, and the back door began to open. Unlike last time, he refused the wheelchair. He chose to stand tall with his friend. It was bad enough he was wearing the sling. The gate lowered, and there she was. Tony was well aware that he sounded Hallmark worthy when he said she was easily the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Younger him had truly been an idiot. Shoot, present him was still an idiot at times. Sure, they had their fair share of problems, but they'd make it work. And now, he may have to start all over. Brody coaxed him forward, and he made the walk down the ramp. Like the previous time, the stretcher was wheeled away. Unlike last time, he was letting Brody help him down. While his legs were working better than they had yesterday, he was shaky out of pure nerves. But finally, he made it. Like last time, Pepper's eyes were red with tears.
Tears for your long-lost boss?
He smiled, resisting the urge to wipe away the tears that had escaped her eyes with his thumb. Tears of joy, and perhaps relief. Maybe, someday, I'll stop doubting your ability to do the utterly impossible. Could a human brain blue screen? It was a question Tony had pondered now and then. Considering half his found family were bots and AIs, he wondered if humans shared that trait. He could now say that they did, because he was fairly certain that was what had just happened.
Pup?
She smiled, and finally he found the courage to meet her eyes. Like Rhodey's, they were older than they should be.
She remembered. Pepper remembered.
Closing the space between them, she got in his face. Don't you dare do something like that again. I don't think I can survive seeing it twice. Am I clear? He nods, not trusting his own voice.
I had to do it, Pup. I had to keep the kids safe. I had to keep you safe.
She smiled and pulled him into a hug. And I love you for it. Now, let's get out of here. He turned towards Happy, who was staring at him with more emotion than his friend tended to show.
Hey, Hap. Boss.
Tony winced. You too? He nods.
Let's take this discussion where there are fewer chances to be overheard.
Rhodey finally interjects. That spurred them to moving in the direction of the car. Happy opened the rear driver door for Tony while the others headed for the other side. Normally, Tony would protest that he could get in his own door, but considering the arm closest to the door was in a sling, it was a concession he was willing to make. Happy settled in front of him, Rhodey in the passenger seat, which led Pepper to sit next to him. Happy pulled away from the base.
Where to, boss?
Home, though I wouldn't complain if we repeat the cheeseburger-related stop. That earned him a laugh, and it broke some of the tension that had been building in the car.
Pepper.
She turned her business face on.
I know that we need to fix things because, let's be honest, I haven't been CEO in 15 years, and I don't know what I'm doing. But I think it's the best call that we don't drop that bombshell until after Stain is taken care of.
Honestly, that's the best option. Trying to hand over the job while he still has any power might weaken our position.
Tony nods. The next few weeks are crucial. We're laying the foundation for how we handle this. Younger me was an idiot. You had no way of knowing.
Rhodey turned.
We all lived those years and learnt a lot. So, what's the play, Tony?
Happy looked at him in the rearview mirror.
Platypus, I need you to call your supervisors. Arrange a meeting with them first thing tomorrow morning. With Hydra corrupting S.H.I.E.L.D. as they have, I don't trust them.
Granted, I didn't trust them after they cleaned house.
Rhodey nodded. Do I say what it's about?
Mention a debriefing of what happened. They wanted that last time and I wasn't super cooperative. This time it's different. We all got sent back. I have a sinking suspicion there's more. Conversation screeched to a halt as Happy pulled up to a Burger King. Tony could smell burgers at this point and his stomach let out a growl. Order in hand, Tony opened it and took a bite, savouring the taste.
Where was I? More time travellers. Who? If we're going off who I was thinking of, Peter and Harley. I thought of Morgan too. Have a pipe dream theory that we won't be able to test for another couple of weeks.
Pepper's hand went to her stomach as if she had read his mind.
You don't think? Honey, we're 15 years in the past. I've given up on thinking anything might be impossible anymore. I time travelled, fought aliens, blew the world's mind with tech I created. Nothing's impossible.
He took a few more bites of burger and finished the first one.
Secondly, Pepper, darling, love of my life, I need you to call for a board meeting tomorrow. So, 1 p.m? Then schedule a press conference for 4. I know you know who to invite. Also, call Graham and tell him I need the Take Over the World suit. He'll know what you mean.
Pepper nodded.
Happy, starting tomorrow, or maybe the day after. Let's see how the day shakes out. You're in charge of checking through our security protocols. I don't trust anyone else with that.
Happy nodded, once again giving Tony a rare show of emotion.
We'll make more plans when we're in the house and secure. Jay will be able to ensure that much. After we chat, I'm giving him a nice code update. I don't have to hide how advanced I am in my own home. He dared Fury to hack his boy again. Jarvis would be with him through it all this time. Ultron would never happen.
They fell into a comfortable silence. Pepper was on her BlackBerry. They really needed to get a jump start on Stark phones. Tony wasn't sketching up that idea at all. He needed something that blew up the market out of the water, but they needed to build for now. He'd find a balance. A rare show of restraint. It was weird driving in Malibu. He hadn't been back in years and was starting to regret that. Maybe he should have rebuilt his home and used it as the sanctuary, instead of forcing himself to stay where the ghosts of failed friendships lived. Granted, New York provided proximity to Peter. He'd figure it out. It didn't take that long, but eventually, Tony recognized that they were near the drive to enter his mansion. What did surprise him, however, was the fact that there was a car next to the gate and a woman leaning against it. Happy slowed the car down and the woman turned. Tony felt his eyes go wide.
Boss, isn't that May Parker?
End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Ooh, little cliffhanger there. I love that Pepper remembers, and that theory about Morgan being pregnant with Tony's kid because Morgan's also time travelled. I like that idea. I like it a lot. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.